Hey folks, it's Eddie G, DM Fumble, and today I want to talk about the future. In fact, next year. Next year is 2023, but for this Dragonlance fan, it's going to look an awful lot like 1995. See, it turns out that the calendar for 2023 matches perfectly with the old calendar for 1995. So after doing a little bit of research and some purchasing on secondhand sites, I was able to procure the 1995 Dragonlance and Other Worlds calendar, and we'll be using that next year to grace my working space where I like to do my writing and other D&D related projects. So TSR did do, and this is TSR era, TSR did do calendars back in the day, and they did 2 Dragonlance calendars. I think they took a break and did a Forgotten Realms calendar, and then I think they went back to doing Dragonlance calendars. By 1995, they actually called it the TSR and Other Worlds. So we're going to see some TSR images from some products and books, and then we'll see a few images that actually fill out the Other Worlds part of the title here. So let's take a look at what the images for next year are going to be. Okay, folks. Now let's take a look at the images for each of the months of the 1995 Dragonlance and Other Worlds calendar. First one we have here is for January, and this is the Dragons of Krynn, painting by Janelle Jaques, who is a very prolific artist back in the day and a very influential designer of different modules, including some of the third-party modules. This, I believe, was the cover for one of the anthology books. Next up, we have the Dark Queen. This was the cover for a book. I know. I remember reading it. I'll admit I wasn't really a big fan of this book, as opposed to some of the other Dragonlance books I really love. This one is by Jeff Easley. Next up, we have Dragonlance, Dragons of Spring Dawning by Larry Elmore. This was the alternate cover. Sometime around this year, they re-released the books with new covers, and this was the cover for the alternate version for Spring Dawning. Book inside is still the same, but the cover again is just different. Next up, we have our first Other Worlds. So again, they called it the Dragonlance and Other Worlds calendar because they didn't have enough Dragonlance art pieces to fill out the full 12 months. So here we have an Al-Qadim picture called Ruined Kingdoms. I believe, again, this was the cover for a box set. This is by Fred Fields. Next up, for May, we have First Quest. This was an introductory box set for D&D at the time. I believe this was a 2nd edition era, and it was intended for new players. I think it even came with a CD full of sound effects and maybe even spoken text for the first module, things like that. This First Quest piece here is the cover of that product, that first product, and this is by Jeff Easley. Next up, we have Dragonlance Lord Toady, also by Jeff Easley. This is the cover for a great Dragonlance novel, Lord Toady, and I'll say that it's, I think, somewhat of a derisive novel in that some people love it, some people don't. I don't think there's too many people who are in the middle on this novel. I personally think it's a great novel, super funny, well worth the read. Next up, we have the full spread. So this is the poster image. This is the Dragonlance Book of Layers, and this is by Bruce Engel. I remember this book because I have it. This is definitely a 2nd edition, and this was just a great resource of tiny encounters that you can pull from. I've used some of them in my campaigns, and you can build whole models around them or use them as side quest adventures. Again, it's written for 2nd edition, but still worth picking up if you can find it either on DM's Guild or in secondhand resources. Okay, let's go back to our monthly calendars. Now we have the AD&D Council of Worms, also by Jeff Easley, and we can see he does wonderful dragon images here. This was I believe that this is the cover for the box set. And this actually was a product that allowed you to play as dragons, younger versions of dragons, but still everyone was a dragon of some maker type, and you had different adventures involving those level of characters. Eventually they did put out a maybe a module. I know they put out what they called a player's option for Council of Worms as well, which was, I think, kind of an add-on book towards the end of 2nd edition. Now for August, we have a Dragonlance picture. This one is Night of the Eye by Larry Elmore, and this is the cover of I believe this is the first book in the Defenders of Magic series by Mary Kirchhoff. Hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. And we can see the Night of the Eye prominent in the top image there. That's where the 3 moons of Kryn align: Solinari, Lunitari, and Nuitari. And we get to see 2 mages. They appear to be of red robes, although in the darkness here you can't be sure, having some issue with each other, and one of them seems to be affected by some kind of malady on his arm. I believe I have these books. I believe I have all 3 of these books from a secondhand bookstore, but I haven't gotten around to reading them. I really do need to put that on my reading list, on the short list for next books. Next up, we have the new version of Dragons of Autumn Twilight. That's right. This is the, again, new version of that book. Larry Elmore's cover again. This one features just Tanis and just Goldmoon, with everyone's favorite dragon in the background. I'm pretty sure that's Ember. And I really do like the looks on their face here. And I've heard that Larry Elmore wasn't as crazy about these revised covers that he did, but I think they're just amazing. This is September. Now we go into October. This is another book from the Defenders of Magic, another cover from the Defenders of Magic. Again, also by Larry Elmore. And clearly whatever magical malady is going on is getting worse. We saw a character with a diseased hand, a plague-ridden hand. Now we see his arm turning into serpents, and people unsure about what's going on. So this is October. Next up for November, we leave the world of Dragonlance and we go over to the world of Mystara. This is Mystara Kingdom of Adventure, also by Janelle Jaques. And I'm not familiar with this product, so I don't know exactly what this is depicting, but this is a beautiful picture of the dragon swirling around this knight who is trying to stay alive in the face of a very tough fight ahead of him. And then finally, for our December finale, we have the Dragonlance Dragons of Winter Night. And again, clearly these were not done in order. These are actually in proper order for the season. So Winter Night is clearly here. We had Autumn Twilight just a few months previously. And of course, we had Spring Dawning all the way back there at the beginning, even though that's the 3rd book in the series. Again, this is the revised cover by Larry Elmore. Again, I love it. We already knew that it was Kitiara underneath that armor from the original painting, so there's no point in hiding that. We get to see her looking directly at us as though we should be afraid of her, and we should, certainly with her and her trusty dragon behind her, Ski. And of course, we've got another image of Tasselhoff Barefoot. And that wraps up the calendar images for the 1995 calendar, which I'll be reusing next year for 2023. The only thing I need to do is I will need to reinforce some of these holes up at the top. Some of them have been ripped, and I've already got tools for that to make sure that they'll stay on my wall next year. And with that, hopefully you've enjoyed this look at the calendar images for the Dragonlance and Otherworlds 1995 calendar, reusable in 2023. Okay, so if you made it to the end of the video here, please consider hitting the like and subscribe to help the channel grow. And if you want to follow me on socials, I am DM Fumble, drop the E, on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you for your time.